As you can see, we're joined now by Ed Hervey of the Edmonton Elks. Media members, should you have a question, please use the raise hand function to join the queue. We'll lead off now with Scout Hinachek. Scout, please go ahead.
Good morning, Ed Hervey. Scout Natick here from Shotgun Sports Network. Thank you so much for your time. I do have two questions here. The first one is in regards to your tenure as GM. You've been really busy in the last couple of months. So I do ask, has this been like riding a bike since your last time as GM of the Double E?
Yeah, I think with respect to going in with the plan and knowing uh, which ways I wanted to execute it. Obviously, there was a plan prior to hiring Mark, and then there's the adjustment of the plan, or including his input and with respect to how we want to execute a plan with respect to the roster. Obviously, Trey Ford is being the biggest target for us. I think that was one of the key signings for us going into the job, was to, I guess, in some ways, for lack of a better word, persuade him that the opportunity in Edmonton was not only the best one for him, but wasn't going to be anything close to what he lived during his short time there.
Awesome, thank you. And then for my second question is in regards to Nyles Morgan. As we know, he has been a cog for the Double E defense over the last couple of years, or last few years. So where are you at in terms of progress in those talks with Nyles Morgan?
With respect to Nyles, I mean, he's kind of waiting to see his options with the NFL, if any. There's been dialogue. And then I guess we'll see once the NFL window closes, what his intentions are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Scout. Next up, we'll go to Justin Dunk. Justin, please go ahead. Sorry, Justin, you're just on mute there.
Justin Dunk, 3downnation.com. Ed, thanks for doing this. I'm curious about Geno Lewis. Do you anticipate being able to re-sign him before free agency opens?
Not looking to do that before free agency. Sure, he's going to get to the window. We'll let the market reset itself with the receivers. We have more pressing needs on our roster. I don't know, how else to explain it. There's the resources. I put my resources in other areas, and with respect to, I think Geno's is an excellent receiver, but I think the receiver market is a bit, we're not paying that kind of money for receivers in Edmonton.
Do you anticipate him being back with the Double E or not because of the high price tag?
I don't know what his price tag is going to be. We're going to see what the market sets for him, Justin. If someone is interested in that ticket, then more power to them. We have other areas on our roster that will help us improve the roster that we have to address. Each team does their own thing, and where they choose to allocate their resources. There's no way I even remotely think about allocating that much of our cap to that position. And I played it. So, don't get me wrong. Like I do respect and appreciate the position, but there's no way that, at least not while I'm in Edmonton, that we're going to even come close to those numbers.
He made $320,000 in 2024, which has been well documented. Would he have to get down to, like, let's say the $200,000 level for you to entertain it?
Are you his agent? I'm not going to get into discussion of where it needs to get to. We're going to see where that's the beauty of free agency, Justin, is that the market will dictate where the value of the receivers are. I just can tell you, just as I'm looking at you on the screen, as honest as I've always tried to be with the media, whether it's been, perceived as negative or positive, there's no way that I'm investing that kind of money into that position this year.
That's just, I'm trying to get a sense of when you say that kind of money, what it is, because going back to last year, you let Tim White and the market sort of settle itself out and brought him down from a higher price tag. So is there sort of a dollar value in your head?
No, I think the organization wanted Tim White back as well in that situation. I think this situation here is that we have other pressing needs for this roster. So as far as, what that number looks like, or possibly, no, I don't have a number, to be quite honest with you, what it would take to get him back. I'm looking at, the rest of the market on what can improve our roster in areas that have been deficient. And if those resources can be better utilized, then we will use them in those areas.
Thank you, Ed. Honesty is appreciated.
No problem. Anytime.
Thank you, Justin. Next, we'll move on to John Hodge. John, please go ahead.
Hi, Ed. John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. Thanks for doing this. You mentioned you weren't going to use those types of resources at receiver. I'm curious, you mentioned other deficiencies on the roster. Can you identify some of the spots where in particular you're looking to get better in Edmonton?
Yeah, I mean, look at where some of the positions on defense, I think, right, without giving away, who and what. I mean, just look at some of the areas on the defensive side of the ball, right? I think our defensive line is an area that, is under the microscope coming in and speaking with Mark and our staff. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that's an area that we can look to improve. I think our offensive line could use a player or two. And, in our back end, a little more experience back there can help in some areas. So I think that's kind of it. But, if we're sitting here talking, I think when you look at the defensive line, obviously that's an area that really has been, hasn't been that good, in the last year.
Yesterday, Mark said that he signed a 3-year deal at Edmonton. Would it be fair to say that your deal matches his length?
That's my contract don't just come up. That's a question for Chris Morris to answer.
Okay, he's not available today. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to answer it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, John. We'll move now to Frank Zanichi. Frank, proceed.
Thanks for doing this. So I guess not to be specific about players and renegotiating, that seems to be a trend every season, that there are players that renegotiate, and you talked about free agency resetting the cost. Do you have any idea of have you discussed with Eugene, negotiating down?
No, I haven't.
And what's the line? What, you won't renegotiate with a player? Is that your idea?
No. Here's the thing, Frank. I'll be honest with you, and with all of you who keep asking this question. Put yourself in the shoes of the player. First of all, he has an expectation, okay, and there's that line. And then put yourself in the shoes of the organization, myself, okay. Am I best to insult a player who's used to making a certain amount of money by putting out what I have allocated for that position? Or am I best served to allow the market to dictate so he can get a sense of what his value is to the rest of the league, and then have the negotiation as far as talking dollars? Because at least the numbers that I'm speaking about, or could be speaking with him about, are relatively close to, the rest of the market. If in fact the market is something that I want to participate in. But to come in and someone who's making $320,000 and I come in and say, hey, I want to pay you $220 or $250, think about the significance of the reduction that the player has to accept and swallow. And then the negotiation starts off on the bad foot. That's coming from experience from playing the position and playing in the league. So it is better to maintain a neutral relationship and allow the market itself to show And if the market goes down to 270, 260, 250, then we have an opportunity to decide whether or not that is something that we want to engage in conversation, or we move forward and go in a different direction. But when someone's making that kind of money at the position, which personally, when I look at our roster, that is just not a number that we are going to pay. It is better for me to, at least in a world where I'm trying to maintain some kind of working relationship with the player and his agent and discuss terms. It is better to allow the market to dictate where his value is, rather than me put a number in front of him and then it starts off in a contentious way and we don't get anything done. You know, those usually end in an impasse and things never get done. And that's from experience.
I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to sit in your chair. Unfortunately, I'm not an observer. I'm only an observer. I'm not a participant in either of those situations. So I'm just trying to understand. So it's asked and answered. I understand where you're coming from. Some general managers, some organizations are willing to renegotiate. We see it all the time with I'm not here to argue with you either. I'm just saying that was just an observation that I was trying to establish.
No. I'm not. No, don't take it wrong. I'm not here
No,
arguing or trying. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you, Frank, that
yeah, you did.
I don't know Geno Lewis at all. And you have to think that those situations that you speak of, a lot of the teams have a relationship. They have a working relationship with their players, that they can approach them in that way. Where I'm coming in, I don't even think I've shook his hand on the field post game or pre-game. So I don't know him at all, or his agent. So I'm saying the strategy that I prefer to take in this instance is to allow the market to to show what is true value is. And if someone's willing to pay him 300, great. If it goes down and it's within a range that makes sense, and Edmonton is a place that he wants to be, then we can have a conversation and try to see what that looks like. But I can tell you unequivocally, like, I'm not paying 300. I think that's pretty clear. You can quote it and put it any which way you want. We will not be doing that.
Yeah, you explained yourself perfectly. The little nuance that you haven't had a relationship with him, so how can you? I think that's what I can take away from the question that I asked that I didn't hear the answer. It's clear to me now, and I think that's it's understandable. Thank you.
Yeah. No.
Thank you very much, Frank. We'll now go on to our two final questions. First, JC Abbott. JC, go ahead.
Hey, Ed, JC Abbott, 3downnation.com. You talked a little bit when you were addressing positions of need about the potential to add veterans on the back end. You've got one veteran on the back end who's a pending free agent in Luchez Purifoy. Have you had any conversations with him yet, or is it a similar situation to Geno?
I mean, I've talked with his agent. We've had conversation there. No formal offer has been placed. I think I have a meeting with his agent actually at the end of this week when I go down to Florida. So there'll be an opportunity to talk a little bit more about Luchez and his future.
Do you think that's trending in a positive direction, or how would you describe that situation?
And I don't know no, I just think we're going to have a conversation, and there's a lot of questions that need to be asked in that situation before we even take a chance on even putting anything to paper. We have we have conversations that need to be had.
In terms of your kicking game, there was a lot of conversation last year about Boris Bede having a bit of a down year. You've brought in some competition for him, but he's also due an off-season bonus here coming up. Do you anticipate him being back with the club?
I mean, we haven't had a chance to talk with Boris. Him having a down year, Boris has had success in this league. Having a down year, doesn't necessarily mean that his time in Edmonton is over, and his bonus coming up really has more to do with his contract structure. Now, again, there's another case where I'll have a chance to speak with his people about his future and how if it makes sense. But Yeah, I think that when it comes to these bonuses that the players have, I always try to be careful with how I speak to it before we actually have a chance to talk with the player. Have some time before making a decision, but definitely would like to see where that conversation could go before we make anything final.
Does it help his case that he's a guy who can do both jobs and Jake Julien is potentially leaving for the NFL?
I think, those are all, that's a fair question. Those are all going to be weighed, right, throughout this process. I think, as I said earlier, Boris has done an excellent job in this league. A down year doesn't mean a player's career is down or is over. Having an opportunity to speak to him about, last year and how he sees things moving forward and really get his opinion on things will be a big part of, the decision moving forward.
Excellent. Thanks, Ed.
No problem.
Thank you, JC. We'll conclude now with Scout Natchek. Scout, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot. One more question here, Ed. As we know, Martez Ivey has recently re-signed with the Double E. I think there was some concerns that he may go elsewhere this offseason, whether it be NFL or CFL. So could you possibly speak on how important it was to re-sign Martez Ivey with the Double E?
Yeah, absolutely. The offensive line, again, it's one of those areas where, you want to keep your better players and being able to control the line of scrimmage. I believe the game is won and lost at the line of scrimmage in most cases. And, Martez has been very consistent along this offensive line. And, the talk of the NFL, I'm not sure how accurate or realistic that was, but, just other leagues. I think there's talk of other leagues. And the reality is that if you're going to play in the CFL, compared to some of these other leagues, the UFL we'll use for example. He's an established player in our league, and he's an important player to our team. So to me, it was quite important to not only speak to him before the holidays, but continue the conversation throughout to hammer out something that keeps him in Edmonton for the next couple of seasons. To see him go elsewhere wouldn't have made sense for us, and it makes us a weaker team up front if he wasn't there.
Thanks again, Ed.
No problem.
Scout, thank you very much. And Ed, always appreciate your time and honesty. Thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, I want to say to everyone, I appreciate you guys covering the league. I know sometimes these conversations, you don't necessarily get the answers that you want specifically at times. There's a lot of work that still ahead for myself and my team, and myself and Mark. But I try to be as honest with you guys as I can, and sometimes it may come across like it's just in your face, but it's really not. I don't want to lie to you guys, and I don't want to give away too much of what I'm trying to do. So I try to find the balance. But on the topic of this $300,000 receiver stuff and whatnot, I tried to give you the best answer I could, the most honest answer I could. But again, nonetheless, I do appreciate you guys covering our league and giving us the exposure that we need. Thank you.
You did
Really
a great
helpful. Thank you. Appreciate the explanations.
Thanks, Ed.
Absolutely. Have a
Thank
great
you
day,
very
guys.
much, Ed. Next up, we'll be having Jeremy O'Day join us. Thank you.